Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Humanitarian Hiring Solution. My name is Mike McLeod. I'm the Director of Member and Business Development for the British Columbia Hotel Association, and this is our BCHA virtual event series presented by Fortis BC. We'll introduce our speakers and our panelists here in a few minutes, but just wanted to thank everybody for completing the poll, which will remain up for a few more minutes. Looks like looks pretty close there. Lots of great choices in if you could spend a week in any of the below destinations, which one would you pick right now? So please continue to do that and we'll have a little fun. Excuse me. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are coming to you today from our office in Vancouver, which is located on the unceded and ancestral territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, which have been stewarded by them since time immemorial. Before we jump into our panel, I would like to acknowledge our presenting sponsor of this series, Fortis BC. Fortis makes these sessions possible, and we certainly thank them for their support. Fortis BC is moving forward and making progress to meet BC's diverse energy needs. This includes increasing our investment in energy efficiency and expanding their supply of low carbon renewable natural gas. If you are a hotel operator or another tourism facility seeking an energy efficient solution and looking to reduce emissions, Fortis BC can help provide a holistic solution and support you through the entire process. We'll put Vlad Koska's contact information in the chat. If anyone is attending the BCHA Summit in a couple of weeks, Fortis will be there as well, and Vlad and several colleagues will be there to answer your questions. We're also delighted to share the details of our session sponsor, which is Dyson. Dyson machines can help improve the guest experience in every detail, from light levels to air treatment to hair care to washroom hygiene. Dyson's premium hair care technology offers intelligent heat control for a 5-star style experience, while the range of purifiers enhances hotel comfort. Dyson vacuums offer versatile, cord-free cleaning engineered with your employees and guests in mind. BCHA member hotels can enjoy special discounts. And again, we'll put Marty Allison's contact information in the chat. Dyson will also be at the BCHA Summit in the marketplace, and we invite you to spend some time with them if you are attending that event. Okay, without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers today. Kicking things off, you will hear from Alison Langford, who is BCHA's in-house workforce strategist. Following Alison, you'll hear from Laura Dyer, who is the Director of Canada for the organization Talent Beyond Boundaries. And last but not least is Eliza Seaborn, Senior Program Officer for World University Service of Canada. And Eliza leads the HIRES program, which has been operating here in British Columbia. We'll have time at the end of the session to answer questions, so please remember to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We'll put all the questions in there and answer as many as we can, time permitting. And we are delighted to bring you the session today as we dive into 2 new programs available to you, to the tourism sector for hiring displaced candidates. I know from personal experience working with both of these organizations, it is well worth the time and energy to look into both of them. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Alison Langford to kick us off.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here today. Thank you for joining our virtual event. Focus is on our guests, but I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what we would call some of our wins or some really great changes that we've seen at the federal level and impacts and changes that we believe will help to enhance your workforce. And certainly on many levels is just really positive way to reunify families and to make the process of hiring temporary foreign workers a little bit easier. We'll talk a little bit about students as well as the working holiday permits as well, and then we'll get into our refugee section. So just a couple of updates. There's been some expansion on some recent changes that that IRCC, they extended some programs, made some program changes, and it was time-based or time limited. And we've recently been told that there is going to be some extensions to some of these changes. One of them being, if you hire temporary foreign workers in the semi-skilled or unskilled category, that being, say, a light duty cleaner, you have a cap as to how many workers you can hire. That cap was extended to 30% of your workforce, and that cap has been maintained. So it just means that the potential for you, if you need to hire more temporary foreign workers, you're still able to do that. The validity of the LMIAs that you need in order, LMIAs being labor market impact assessment, they have been, the length of time that they're valid was extended to 18 months, and that extension has also taken place. The length of time that a worker will be issued a work permit was changed to 2 years, and that change has been maintained. So it means that when you have a worker coming into Canada, they will be given a work permit for a 2-year duration, which certainly helps to provide some stability to your workforce, knowing that you're going to have this new staff person for at least a 2-year minimum. The other really interesting change, and one that I think is really important and really makes a difference in family unification, is that work permits is workers that are in a semi-skilled position. So again, a light duty cleaner. They were previously not eligible for their spouse to apply for an open work permit to join them in Canada. That change has been made, and so now any worker that's here in Canada, they can bring their spouse and children to Canada the spouse would come on an open work permit, and the students would come, or the children would come on student permits or visitor visas, visitor records when they get here. So it just means that families are no longer separated for potentially 2 or 3 years at a time. And so I think that that's a really positive change that we've seen. The International Experience Canada program, so that's what most of us know as workers coming over, or people coming over on working holiday permits. So those are the Aussies going to Whistler, is what most of us know. That program is due for expansion by 20%, and that's going to be demand driven. In the last couple of years, we've seen fewer working holiday fewer workers who are coming on working holiday permits because of the backlog of visa offices, because of shutdowns through COVID. So we really see this year as being coming back to normal levels and potentially a really great source of short-term workers. So they may not stay with you for a whole year, but they would come hopefully when you have some busy times, and then just as intended, they will go and explore the rest of Canada or BC as the permit was meant to do. The other really positive change that we've seen is that international students were previously only allowed to work 20 hours a week. Now that has been extended to 40 hours per week. So students are able to work as much or as little as they need. And certainly if you're hiring international students, that can make a really big difference to your workforce needs and for available labor that you have. The other thing that we saw is that students that had graduated from a postgraduate institute. So if I had attended a 2-year college, I would then be eligible for a 2-year postgraduate work permit. Those were one and done. So usually you could apply once and then you couldn't apply again. The government has again made a change to allow these students to apply for an extension of those permits for an additional 18 months. So it just gives students time if they didn't get enough work experience in, say, to apply for their permanent residency, or if they really want to stay in Canada and they don't want to go home, this provides a means for them to stay, which is fabulous news, and certainly keeps our skilled labor in Canada, which is what we want to do. Additional money has been put for biometrics. So biometrics are required when you come into Canada. And so it just means that processing times will be lessened. And then a boost to the Francophone immigration in Canada. New funds have been provided. So this is what we might know as the Francophone Mobility Program. Some of you know, BCHA attended the Destination Mobility Forum in France and Morocco this year. And so that forum really focuses on hiring workers through the Francophone Mobility Program. It is a program that does not require this labor market impact assessment. And so we're really hoping to promote that program as another option, great option for hiring. The worker coming into Canada has to have be French speaking, but the job that they're being hired for does not have to be French speaking. So it seems like a little bit contradictory, but if the job is in English, that's okay, but they just have to meet a certain level of French speaking, level of speaking French. So some really great wins. So a lot of what we do and more, a lot of time that Ingrid spends is doing advocacy. And it's through our advocacy work that we see the positive changes we want to be made at the federal level to try and make access more reasonable, to try and see positive changes being made in the programs that are being offered to try and alleviate our workforce shortages. Lastly, we have some really positive changes that have happened with the two different refugee programs, and we're really pleased to be working with two fabulous organizations, Talent Beyond Boundaries and the Hires program. They are both doing exceptional work and really valuable work to try and change the lives of displaced people. So they are the experts, and we brought them here today to speak about their programs. So I'm really pleased to turn things over to Lara with the Talent Beyond Boundaries program, and she's going to speak to what they do and how you can access this program. Welcome.
Great. Thanks so much, Mike and Alison, and to BCHA for having me here today. It is my pleasure to be here, and I'll just bring up some slides. And I'll go through the slides and then very happy to answer any questions. But basically, we are delighted to be a source of talent for your organizations. And we really do try to work with employers to make it as easy as possible to recruit through us so that we can change the lives of people who are refugees or otherwise stuck in displacement abroad. I'm here today on behalf of Talent Beyond Boundaries, and I'm Canada Director for that organization. We also work in a matrix team with Jumpstart Refugee Talent, which is a refugee-led organization that has been active in Canada, historically has done work with refugees who were here already, and now we're partnering to bring additional refugees over as skilled workers. So what does Talent Beyond Boundaries do? We are really looking at unlocking the potential of labor mobility for refugees or economic immigration. So we fully support the continued existence and growth of humanitarian pathways for refugees, but in addition, just to address the mass displacement that is happening globally, TBB really exists to look at economic immigration for those who meet the criteria. So on the left-hand side of my slide, you see that skilled refugees need opportunities. They need opportunities to move to safety, and they want opportunities to continue to grow and to build their careers. In the middle, you will know very, very well that employers need talent. And so there are as many as 1 million job vacancies in Canada at any given time. And so TBB works with our partners to connect those two opportunities. And we do have an amazing opportunity right now because the Government of Canada and the Minister of Immigration, Sean Fraser, is very, very supportive of this work and has committed 2,000 spots in the immigration levels plan to this program in particular. And I'll speak a little bit later to some of the new developments that Alison was alluding to as well. TBB is a global nonprofit organization, and so collectively we've helped over 1,000 refugees to come to safety through labor pathways. I am responsible for the Canada program, but we're also active in Australia, the United Kingdom and the US. And at the bottom, you'll see that there are expansion pilot projects into Ireland, Portugal, Belgium, and New Zealand. And I was just talking to our Europe director this morning, and more and more countries are coming on board with this idea and with our programming, which is awesome for from our perspective. In Canada, the program that we helped to implement is called the Economic Mobility Pathways Pilot, or the EMPP. I used to be the director responsible for this program at IRCC, and I fell in love with it. And so I left my government career to work in this space full time. I just saw the potential of it from an employer perspective, and also obviously creating opportunities for skilled refugees to move to a safe country and to be able to reestablish their lives and their careers. So it is not a program in and of itself. It's not a pathway. What it is a set of facilitative measures that are borne out in research in terms of being barriers for those in displacement to access labor pathways. And so we actually leverage the pathways that are listed on the right-hand side: the Provincial Nominee Program, the Atlantic Immigration Program, and the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot. And as of March 27th, the minister announced that there will be an additional pathway, which will be a federal pathway. And so we'll just have more opportunities to be able to work with employers. And we think that federal pathway will make it easier, for example, to work across jurisdictions within Canada. And so we're looking forward to more details around the criteria for that. Some of the examples of the facilitative measures are having a valid passport. So often people didn't think to grab their passport as they had to flee their circumstances in the middle of the night. So either they don't have a passport at all, or they don't have a valid passport. And so EMPP provides a workaround for that. There's also special immigration loans that are available to EMPP candidates that help them to finance their own migration. And again, this is a special facilitative measure for refugees, recognizing that many of them weren't able to bring their assets with them as they had to flee, or that they've exhausted their savings, because of their displacement journey. So I'm very pleased and proud to say that as of December, TBB is a trusted partner of IRCC. And so we do the assessment on behalf of IRCC according to preset criteria to determine that individuals are either refugees or in displacement, and therefore eligible for access to these facilitative measures. So this just makes it easier for both employers and candidates to access the program. Here are some of the happy faces of those that we have been able to help, and it's in a whole range of different career areas. So we have a baker represented here, we have a nurse, we have an engineer, and a software developer. Very, very pleased to be able to move and restart their lives. This is kind of the crux of our offering, which is a database that we call the Talent Catalog. And it's got over 60,000 people that have signed up with us to express their interest in moving for international employment opportunities with the help of TBB. You'll see in the bottom left some of the areas in the world that we are drawing from. So Lebanon and Jordan, Turkey, Iraq, Malaysia. We also have new countries that have opened up in Africa. So we see Kenya there, but we also are working in Uganda now. And just to a point that Alison made, we are working with a number of refugee serving organizations in those countries to identify French speaking candidates as well. So we're pleased to be able to take advantage of both English language opportunities as well as French language. On the right-hand side, you'll see just the range of the different kinds of professions that are captured in the talent catalog. We have over 150 professions that are captured. You'll see some that would be most relevant to the hospitality sector, so chefs and bakers, sales and marketing professionals, management professionals. accountants, and particularly we are doing specific recruitment in sort of for cooks, for cleaners, and for sort of hotel concierge or clerk workers. So definitely very relevant to your labor needs. In terms of how the process works, we are a charity, and so we don't charge fees, or, you know, we're not set up that way, but what we do is we try to mirror a typical recruitment process as much as possible. And again, this is to make it as easy as possible for our employer partners to work with us so that we can increase the scale of solutions for our skilled workers. So it always starts with the occupation that the employer is looking for. So again, a chef or a cook or hotel cleaner or whatever it is that you might need. With that information, we dig into our database to find CVs that are a good fit for the occupational requirement and for any other needs that you have as an employer. And we do a vetting of those CVs. So we don't just send you a bunch of CVs that may or may not be a good fit. We really do go through them and look at them from the perspective of the occupational code. To the best of the information we have, we look at them from an immigration perspective, and your own requirements as the employer. So when you get a list of CVs from us, it's really just a matter of looking at them from the perspective of who's a good fit for your organization, because you can be confident that there's already been at least one round of vetting. And we have one employer who was just sharing with us that she's an HR professional and she gets so many unsolicited CVs coming into her inbox all the time. And so being able to work with us and have us do that initial round of vetting has been really helpful to her. And then she just has to go through and kind of look with more precision in terms of the needs of her company, and kind of finding that good fit. We also work on the immigration application. So we partner with an organization called Fragaman, and they are a global, worldwide immigration services leader, and they provide their services to our clients at a very, very, very reduced rate to make sure that all of the documentation is covered and to really give those applications the best chance for success as they go through the various stages of consideration. And then for settlement and post-arrival, we continue to work with the employer and the employee, as well as a variety of community partners. So settlement provider organizations. We also tap into community groups that have had experience welcoming refugees before, just to make sure that there's a really warm welcome for our candidates as they settle into Canada. And it really does help with retention of those individuals in the organizations that they're coming to be part of, as well as the communities, which can be very, very important for smaller communities in particular. There are some economic immigration costs. And so because we are leveraging economic immigration pathways, this is a conversation that we have with the employers. So typical costs that we would discuss with the employer is any government application fee. And most of those have been, well, they have been waived at the federal level. So where there's a fee, for example, for the BC PNP, we would ask the employer to cover that. I already talked about our partnership with Fragaman, and so there is a licensed or a fee for the immigration consultants, but it is very much reduced, starting at $1,000 for an application, but they've offered volume discounts where an employer is looking at hiring cohorts. The bottom three fees or costs, one is a federal government right of permanent residence fee. And then there's flights and temporary accommodation. And we do ask employers to consider contributing toward those costs, just to make it a very kind of soft landing for our candidates and to help them to feel welcome. But we are able to put those on some of these special loans that are available under the EMPP as necessary. So really the funding proposition is kind of shared by both the employer and the candidate. So, you know, sort of everybody that benefits is having some skin in the game. And that's it. There's my contact information. So thanks very much for listening, and very open to taking questions at the end of the session. And I think I'm turning it to Eliza now.
Thanks very much, Lara. So it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thank you all for your time and interest in learning about both TBB and the HIRES program. So HIRES is a program that's been operating in BC with the hospitality industry. It's an acronym. I'll say the full name once. Hospitality Industry Welcomes Refugee Employment Linked Sponsorship. So HIRES has now for 3 years been successfully resettling young refugees into entry-level positions in the tourism and hospitality industry in BC. We are uniquely using the private refugee sponsorship pathway, immigration pathway to Canada, which means the program is really not just about filling labor needs, but also building community. So there are many actors and players in our program that build the participants for success. So WUSC, my organization, recruits and selects and vets refugees residing in Kenya for their industry suitability for entry-level jobs, attitude, and eagerness for this opportunity. We work with employers in BC that are interested and able to offer 12 months of full-time employment to the participants. We're working alongside Camosun College as well, who's our training partner, and they provide 3 weeks of post-arrival training to our program participants to get them work ready with some industry certifications, workplace expectations, professional communication, intercultural communication, a strong kind of start from when they arrive in Canada. They're matched prior to arrival. We facilitate online meet and greet matching process between our partners and the participants. And then throughout that first year in Canada, we're working with sponsorship groups, volunteers in your workplace and wider community that are providing settlement and community integration support. So who are our program participants? They're young refugee youth that are currently residing in Kenya, but from our surrounding countries. They're single with between the ages of 24 to 28 years. In a few cases, they have been lucky enough to get scholarships and pursue some post-secondary education, but the majority, and at a minimum for our program, have completed secondary school and have a strong verbal English proficiency to work safely in an entry-level job. And I think feedback from our partners has been that that language level has been in line or more often above kind of what they see through temporary foreign worker employees they hire. Just quickly, WUSC is an international development organization, also a nonprofit organization. We work globally for and with marginalized youth in areas of creating economic and education opportunities. But in Canada, our work all revolves around refugee resettlement. So why we're at this table and what we bring is that we've been facilitating refugee sponsorship for over 45 years now, when Canada was the first country to bring in a community sponsorship model where citizens and groups of volunteers could come together and sponsor a refugee to come to Canada. WUSC started using this immigration pathway to bring students and create a pathway to education. And now we're doing the same thing with hires. So it's an evolution of a program that we've been longstanding with, and we're now bringing about around 200 refugees to Canada every year. And so we have that experience in both the overseas selection, vetting, immigration process, as well as supporting volunteer teams in Canada to welcome them. We do have a robust pre-departure orientation program for our participants, as well as the hospitality specific post-arrival training that I've mentioned with Camosun College. We're a trusted refugee informed organization, and we've now demonstrated success of this program for the third year running. These are the employers that through the first, second, and now third cohort we've been working with in BC. And so I welcome you to reach out to any of them and get a sense of how the program has gone for them, or I'm happy to make connections for anybody wishing to speak to an employer that has gone through this program and process. To date, we've brought through the program, we've brought and placed people into front desk, night auditor, line cooks, stewards, guest services, and housekeeping positions. And really, we're willing to open to working with any entry-level positions that you're having difficulty filling. And we don't kind of have the any immigration requirements around positions we can and can't use, given we're using the private sponsorship immigration stream. So I've touched on this being a community model. So just to introduce the idea of what a sponsorship group is. And so this is WISC, once we've solidified a partnership with an employer that's wanting to provide a work contract, we turn around with you and share this program to your staff and see if there's people in your team that actually want to step up and be a part of welcoming a new staff member, as they do for others, but as a more formal endeavor to take on and understand and work with WISC. And we provide a lot of training and information, having done this for 40 years on what to expect and how to successfully welcome someone to a community, offer that sense of community and navigational support through new systems, whether that's, banking, health, or like how to get to use transport to get to work the first week. And so it's really a team engagement effort as well. And growing your teams to want to both welcome and learn from newcomer staff through this program. So I mentioned we're now in our third cohort. It's very exciting. We have 31 people arriving next week that we're preparing for. We've already landed 2 cohorts of this project to BC. Tofino championed the first group of 9 participants. The following year, we grew to 20 and started working in the Okanagan and Kelowna, Vernon. And we have partners in East Kootenays and Fairmont Hot Springs and Cranbrook. And this cohort that's just landing next week, we've expanded to Victoria, but really we're willing to work in any community in BC where we can match at least 4 participants. So that can be, one property taking 4 or a couple taking 1 or 2, but really having this cohort model that's also a real positive for, peer support and integration into the communities. So really, the great thing about this program I've heard about from all the different players involved about the positive impact at different levels. So, our workplace employers have really talked about, the great small smiles, the great attitude, and that willingness to learn that our participants have brought, and having that consistent, reliable staff in those positions like housekeeping and stewards that, turn over fairly quickly in some places. Engaging that team of volunteers, some properties really do embrace that staff engagement ethos, and properties, companies that have had multiple properties, it's been a chance for team members to come together and get to know each other better. And there's always that cross-cultural learning and eye-opening experiences that happen when you're kind of walking alongside the lens of a refugee newcomer to their new community and workplace. Participants, it's obviously a strong start to both have employment lined up and a group of volunteers to support their integration. To share one story, we've worked with a very small resort community that's just 500 people. And one of the participants that was placed there was Employee of the Year out of about 100 staff in their first year. And another participant that has been working there now for over a year and was doing housekeeping for a year and now is interested in working in the kitchen and has moved into the kitchen. And I hear he's also in talks as well about working in the sales and marketing team, as he's brought some great media skills and documentary filmmaking experience from back home. And even in our first cohort, that was a small cohort of 9, we had 2 of those 9 people be offered promotional opportunities to become housekeeping supervisors. So strong experience from the participants and the community, working with some smaller communities in this program. For instance, Tofino, having that volunteer group element meant that the volunteers in the community were talking about the program to the hospital, to health providers that weren't familiar with for example, the health insurance that refugee newcomers arrive with, and they were able to register to be providers of that insurance, and those kind of elements and actions that come from a sponsorship group make it easier for other refugee newcomers that may follow them to access services and be a positive in terms of retention in smaller remote communities. And then, WUSC has been working out of Kakuma refugee camp in Kenya for over 40 years now. And when we introduced this new program, that wasn't a pathway to education, but a pathway to employment, it's been really well received and really been inspiring. And we continue to receive a few thousand applicants every year, and hope that HIRE's program will continue to grow in numbers and opportunities based on the success we've seen so far. So in terms of what's on the table right now, we have an opportunity for a fall cohort arriving around October this year. So really the requirements for an employer partner is that you're able to provide a 12-month full-time work contract. I know most of the industry is more summer strong, and fall is maybe not your preferred arrival time, but I do like to remind properties that that's a 1-year commitment. So it will see you, those new employees will see you through the busy next summer as well. Once we've got a partner identified that's wanting to provide that employment, we turn around together and introduce this project to your team members and see if there's any volunteers that want to step up in your workplace, maybe telling friends and family and wider community members as well, and getting those 5 people that want to be that first sense of family and support for these HIRES participants. There is a contribution fee. We are a charity, but there's a program contribution fee towards our operations in order to continue this program. There was government funding the first 2 years, and now we are seeing, even with the introduction of contribution towards the operations of the recruitment immigration process, some of those funds also go towards the employees' training when they arrive in Canada. That, even with that introduction of that fee, we've seen repeat partners, and many of the employers that have worked with us in cohort 1 and 2 are doing it again, which is fabulous to see. And then in the ethos of community sponsorship, we're also asking partners to provide some in-kind donations, or recognize really that in that first month and a half that these individuals arrive in Canada and are receiving that training at Camosun College, they do need funds to kind of shelter, feed, and provide transportation to meet minimum requirements through the sponsorship pathway. And so that's a collaborative effort between WUSC and properties, and we're really just asking to either conduct a fundraiser or do an in-kind drive. Many of our partners to date have really, stepped up in offering kind of the first month of temporary accommodation within the hotel or within staff accommodation for free, or done, easy things that it is to donate, such as linens or furniture that go towards those costs. So right now, there's an opportunity on the table for another cohort of about 20, and it's really the first employers that reach out and establish a partnership by May 15th is our cutoff date for that arrival. That would be about 6 months after that date. We've really learned that the partners that are best suited for the program are obviously those that can guarantee full-time employment for 1 year. There is obviously a large housing challenge across BC and across many communities we work with, and we recognize that's a barrier, but in this program, it's a group effort and engaging those volunteers and kind of the workplace and team as a whole to help find longer term housing and or make some arrangement for some temporary housing on arrival. I like to remind everybody that refugees arrive in Canada, which is with permanent resident status, which is fabulous. So there's not that ongoing support needed, for instance, with a temporary foreign worker in terms of helping them attain status. With that, we obviously get questions and concerns around retention and commitment to the program, but it is a 1 year commitment on both sides. And we have seen in both cohort 1 and cohort 2, everyone stay on and have a positive experience with that 1 year commitment duration. And we are really working with employers that see the value and positivity behind engaging teams in welcoming new colleagues as they would, but through this program and process, it's an opportunity to really share and learn from someone that's come from a displaced background. So just to summarize why hires, we're working with entry-level jobs. WUSC is undertaking the selection and immigration process, all the paperwork and immigration forms. We are end-to-end, uniquely an end-to-end program where we're involved in coordinating that pre-arrival and post-arrival training and offering support to communities and employers throughout their first year in Canada. It's a chance to both community build and showcase leadership in engaging your staff and engaging in a project that's bringing inclusivity and diversity to the forefront of your workplace. And obviously with both TBB and hires, social responsibility and helping us respond to the growing numbers of displaced people globally. So thank you very much for your time and attention. That's my contact, and I really encourage you, if any of this information resonated with you, whether or not you're sure about the program, to reach out and we can have a conversation about whether this program is a good fit for your property. Thanks very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey, and I'm the communications manager for the BCHA. Eliza, thank you so much. Laura and Alison, thank you all very much for outlining this information for these both important programs. I know Alison and I firsthand hear from accommodators every day how challenging it can be to hire talent in this day and age and to find access to workers. And this is just both two programs that offer a really incredible solution to that, and also allow operators to play a very pivotal role in the lives of others. So it's a very rewarding work, and we're just so pleased to be in partnership with both Talent Beyond Boundaries and Hires. At this time, we are able to take some questions. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, we do encourage you to use the chat function. I see some coming in here. So the first question is for Eliza. For the Hires program, the $5,000 is per person or for a cohort of people?
It is per person.
Okay, wonderful. I have my own question, as people are probably thinking and typing in here. We are in the business of people, people in the accommodation, hospitality sector, we're people. And I think that it's kind of an innate quality that we enjoy, we have a desire to help others. I see that in most accommodators that I talk to. There's really that sense of generosity and warmth. So I'm wondering, and I do think that that's probably a very attractive part of both of these programs. So I'm wondering, what has there been like a really rewarding part of the work that you've done, and some of the stories that you've seen, and if you could just elaborate on what that is.
Yeah, I can start, Eliza, and then turn it over to you. But certainly, like, one of the reasons that I left the government to do this work was how rewarding it is, and how amazing to see the transformation in someone's life. So we also working in Kakuma, and other refugee camps, as well as people who are living in urban centers, but just not able to have steady income, or to be able to work in their chosen profession, or they have to work in the informal economy, so they're not being paid a living wage, or sort of what they deserve to be paid based on their qualifications. And so I was able to go to the airport and pick up one of our families last August. So a husband and wife and their little daughter of about 3, and drove them from the airport to their home, which is about an hour away. And just to hear the family kind of reflect on what this would mean for them, and for their daughter's future. And these are things that we get to take for granted as people that are in Canada already. But just looking forward to being able to take additional education, to teach their daughter to skate, things like that. But just really what it means for them to move from a really insecure future to having that certainty and being able to resume kind of their hopes and dreams. And I would say that the people that persist in finding a solution to come, in my case, to Canada, are really, bright, talented, kind of go-getter folks. And they are also very appreciative of the opportunity to come to Canada. And so, in terms of their loyalty to the employer and the community, and wanting to be able to give back. They are excellent employees, and also, members of the community. So I also led the development of the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot when I was with IRCC, and all of those concerns that smaller communities have in terms of attracting workers and then retaining them. This is something that we build into our programming and our approach, but it's also something that just comes naturally to folks who, finally, after years in displacement, are able to really put down roots in a community, and they do want to contribute and give back. But yeah, being able to witness that is amazing. And just picking up on Eliza's point in terms of the impact on the whole, like the other staff, and we do see that it enhances the corporate culture of the organizations, and you have lots of volunteers that come around these folks, and it can really just be a really positive experience for the company, but also the whole community.
Thanks, Laura. And I could really echo and repeat everything you said. Is exactly what I see in the Hires program too, and really getting to be part of seeing people getting to move forward with their lives, and the positive change that occurs, and members of the becoming members of the community too. Like many of our participants' eagerness to give back to the community. I was talking to a property recently who's now hired like a big number of Ukrainian refugees, and how the Hires participant were like really stepped up and wanted to be part of helping welcoming their newest members this year to their team. And, as well, working with those volunteer groups and hires when we're checking in. Hearing some of those stories and eye-opening pieces of colleagues kind of, sharing what they've learned from working alongside the program participants and the fun they've had introducing them, someone who's born and raised in a refugee camp in a very arid, dry environment is now being introduced to skiing and taking up golf and activities that are available at the resort, and just they're real positive on both ends for the new colleagues and for the participants moving forward with their lives.
Wonderful. What would you have to say to say if there's an operator that's kind of on the fence about moving forward with joining up with one of these programs? Do you have any kind of words that you could share of why, especially with the timing, why now is the time to sign up with Talent Beyond Boundaries and hires?
I could jump in there. I know housing is a big barrier for many people, and the worry about supporting and helping to find that. But I will say that those partners that participated with us in cohort 1 and 2 and made that extra initiative, and really, I think behind a program like this, there's people coming forward to volunteer. And so it's not just the employer, but there's a few more people in the game, colleagues that can keep their eyes and ears open for and use their contacts for rental space and things that come up in the community, and just the creativity I've seen too of housing temporarily in the hotels, and recognizing that that's still good for business if they have a permanent staff, and they're not going to be sold out and taking that room away, and the fact that despite that kind of working through that extra step of housing, these partners have come back and done it again a third year. Is I'd say most of them have said it's all around positive for the team, for their culture at work, for their staff, as well as getting a great new employee. And why now is because we have the opportunity to land a group in the fall, and that so it's really we'd like to be able to maximize that.
I think I would just add that we always tell people to work with us for business reasons. So we know that there are labor shortages, in every sector, in every occupation. And so we can help you fill those labor shortages. Compared to other ways of doing international recruitment, we are incredibly cost effective. So that's another reason. And I think why now from our perspective is with the federal government so much supportive of this work in the existing programming, but also with the federal pathway that's coming. It just can't be easier. And I know one thing we hear from employers is because of the labor shortages, it's sort of like we're just stealing from each other. And so this is really an opportunity to access an untapped labor pool that without organizations like WUSC or TBB, it would be really, really hard, if not impossible, to access just because of the specialized, where they are in the camps or that kind of thing. So this is a great opportunity to stop the kind of stealing of talent that we hear about from employers, and really, bring in additional folks on a permanent basis. So I think Eliza mentioned you won't have to kind of worry about temporary work permits and whether those are running out and that kind of thing. These folks are your employees permanently. So that's a great opportunity as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I don't see any more questions, so I'm sure we could probably wrap up. I did want to let everyone know that we will be distributing more information on both hires and Talent Beyond Boundaries in our upcoming newsletter, along with a recording of this session as well, which will also be posted on our YouTube channel. And then do you have any final thoughts or any final words that you want to share with our accommodation community for what you'd like from them and how they can get involved?
Just, I think as Eliza said, please reach out to me or Eliza. We are two great toolkits or two great tools in your HR toolkit, and I'd be happy to discuss with you further the TBB and Jumpstart approach.
And I'd like to just, applaud the industry in BC. We launched the Hires Project, a few months before the pandemic, and despite all the challenges and craziness, there were properties and partners that stepped up, and this program has grown and succeeded and continues to do so. And so I hope that we can, get more locations and more properties involved. So reach out to either Laura or I, and we look forward to working with you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
And Kelsey, I would just say, if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out, please do that. I'm always accessible to anybody. And if you missed any of the contact, I'm happy to pass it along. Okay.
Just a reminder, Alison actually offers one-on-one consultations with our members. So she is a wealth of knowledge. I've learned so much from her since we started working together. So I highly encourage everyone to reach out to Alison. She can be reached at alison@bcha.com. And I'll just end on a note. We have our BCHA Summit coming up May 1st to 2nd. It is a jam-packed conference schedule. We're very excited about it. As much as it'll be about learning and growth, there's also going to be a lot of fun as well. We have our BCHA Spring Fling. There's a 10-piece band that's going to be playing. We have some comedy with it. We also have our welcome reception, which will take place at BNA, which will involve some bowling and beers. So we love an alliteration. So we hope to see everyone there. Laura and Eliza will actually also be there. So we're really looking forward to that. And we'll be including more information on that in our upcoming newsletter as well. Thank you all very much. Thank you again, Laura, Alison, and Eliza. And
thanks so much.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.